Echo, Part 9. One wrong decision and it's good night Vienna. I feel like if I keep walking along the train tracks, I'll be able to find my way out of here. I make sure to walk in the middle, using the planks like stepping stones. The steel rails on either side of me feel like some sort of barrier, a protection to whatever it is that's out there. I feel a presence in front of me though, a sort of pressure that builds as I continue to walk. Looking up, I can see that it's coming from that weird grove of trees that bunch up around the train yard. Something is crouched in front of that grove, staring at me from the trees. I keep walking though, because for some reason I don't feel like I have anything to worry about as long as I stay on the tracks. I notice something else behind the hunched figure. A few bulky objects hang from the trees. I know what they are before I can make them out. I keep staring at them as I draw closer, ignoring the thing that's watching me as I do, hearing it breathe as I pass it. Now I can see there are several bodies hanging from the trees. They're of all shapes and species. Some hang by their necks, others by a wrist or ankle. One of them passes me within a few feet, and I notice it doesn't have legs, both of them cut off at the thigh. It's a wolf, and he dangles by one of the stumps. Blood stains his dusty cream-coloured pants and shirt all the way up to his face. As I pass him, he slowly turns on the rope as if he's following my progress. I look down at the corpse's face, the mouth hanging open, eyes wide. It's like he wants to tell me something important. I can feel my body again, where it's numb and heavy. Slowly I open my eyes and see the beige ceiling of Kudzu's trailer. I flick my eyes to the right and I see Kudzu there, but only his back. He seems frozen, like he's in a photo. He's not even breathing. I can't see the window very well from here, but from the small corner I do see, I see eyes. When I wake up, Kudzu is next to me in the bed, his back to me, one of his ears folded under his head. Having been with Leo for a few years, I know that can be pretty painful when you wake up. So I reach out and try to slowly adjust Kudzu's ear from under his head, but he immediately wakes up. He makes a funny snorting sound before suddenly jerking up halfway off the bed, looking back at me. I smile sheepishly. "Sorry, I was trying to fix your ear." Kudzu reaches up, poking at the ear. "Ow, thanks." I notice on the bedside table there's a small plate with what looks like a blueberry muffin on it. Kudzu notices and reaches out for it. "You want to eat? I ate a couple earlier myself. I didn't realize how hungry I was." He lowers his ears. "Still one left though." My stomach has settled for the most part, so I take the plate from him. "Thanks." It's still dark outside from what I can see. Did we sleep through the whole day? I realize I've completely lost track of time. What time is it? Kudzu reaches over the bedside table, grabbing his phone. 2:30 in the morning. I rub my face. Did we sleep through the day or something? No, you were asleep for like 2 hours. Really? It felt like it had been days since what happened at Brian's trailer. Yeah, I found you at around midnight. Kudzu turns nimbly on his rear on the bed, facing me with his legs crossed. How are you feeling? I'm okay. Kudzu gives me a long, hard look. Again, he has the expression of wanting to say something, but he's holding back. What is it? Kudzu lets out a breath. Listen, I'm not going to ask what happened with Brian, but if you want to talk about it... Talking about Brian is the last thing I want to do, and I can feel the threat of violent shivers coming up my spine just thinking about him. Kudzu reaches out one of his black hands to rub up my shoulder. Awkward and comforting as always. I've been through some stuff myself. Kudzu catches himself. Not saying I know what you went through, but I know how it can feel having something really fucked up happen to you. I don't think I've ever seen Kudzu stumble over his words like this. I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's comparable if he, Kudzu trails off, seemingly stunned at his own lack of delicacy. For the first time since I left that trailer, I feel a little bit like laughing. I reach up to rub Kudzu's own arm, feeling like I need to comfort him now. No, it's fine, man. It didn't do anything like that. At least not how you think he would. Kudzu watches me. I know he's not going to ask, so I go on. He, has a thing for asphyxiation, I guess. Oh, jeez. Kudzu's eyes immediately go to my neck. I'm fine. It was just creepy. Creepy definitely doesn't begin to describe it. I don't think now's the time to go into details. I look out the window again, and aside from a few orange dots of light from faraway lampposts, it's black. So, can you tell me what's going on now? Kudzu runs a hand through his head first, sighing heavily and looking out the window with me. Sure you don't want to wait until morning? I really don't think I'm going to be able to fall asleep again, honestly. Kudzu continues to stare out the window. That's when I really start to wonder what it was that I missed. So yesterday, about noon, is when I saw some weird stuff going on. Kudzu looks at me. Your friend, TJ, he came kind of jogging up the road. My mind flashes back to when I saw TJ running past the diner. I hadn't had time to really figure out what he was doing before Duke barged in. He said someone was after him and he needed to leave. He talked to you? Where is he? I feel the fur pricking up all over my body. The thought that TJ might be out there somewhere in the chaos is terrifying. How could someone like him survive that? I'm certainly doing a terrible job. I don't know. He asked me if I had a car, but I don't, so he kept on up the road. Up the road? Well, there's nothing past Kudzu's trailer aside from Carl's house, and that's over a mile away. But Carl doesn't have a car anymore. Maybe he's just staying with the ram? I hope that's the case. After he left, though, was when things really started going crazy. Kudzu shakes his head. You know Dale? Yeah. Dale is the only otter in town now that my family has left. He's walking up the road with a fucking shotgun, pointing it around and stuff. It's out of the ordinary for Dale. I want to get back on the topic of TJ. If he went up the road away from the town, we could still find him. But he was bleeding, had cuts on his leg and his jeans were all ripped up. Oh. But he knocked on my door. I didn't open it, but he yelled through it saying it's a meeting in the centre of town. What kind of meeting? A fucked up one, apparently. Anyway, I went over to Leo's house to see if he was home. Then I saw the window. Kudzu rubs the back of his neck, his ears lowering. Obviously I knew some bad shit had happened, but I had no way of knowing what. Anyway, I went to the town centre hoping I'd see you two there. But just getting there was crazy. Kudzu looks back at me. Jeremy's house was burning and Janice's house looked like it had been broken into too. Jeremy's house? That was Jenna's house. Didn't run into anyone until I got to the townhouse. This whole thing is just getting bigger and bigger. While I'd been in Brian's trailer, everything had been falling apart outside. But why? What's going on? Kudzu shakes his head. I still don't know that, even after they told me. Who? The older guys, Mark and the mayor, said something about this having happened before. It was our turn or something. Our turn? What does that mean? Kudzu shakes his head again. I don't know. They just said it happened to their grandparents, that we had to be ready. Ready? They did tell us what to do? Said to pray. Is that all they told you? Basically. Acted like there's nothing we can do about it, and Kudzu pauses. What? They also said we can't leave and showed us a body. Kudzu stops talking. I stare. Like a dead body? Kudzu swallows and nods. What is going on? I feel my voice rise in pitch and Kudzu puts up his hands as if trying to quiet me down. I don't know, but there were weird cuts on the body. They said we can't leave because something out there will stop us if we try to leave town. I stare at Kudzu. Like a serial killer or something? They wouldn't say. They acted like it's a monster. Well, then they're lying, right? Kudzu is quiet for a moment, then shakes his head. After everything I've seen, I just don't know. Well, I think, trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do. Well, we need to find Leo at least. Kudzu nods like he's already thought about that. Then maybe get my car and at least try to leave. Kudzu doesn't say anything to that. But if we can't leave, for whatever reason, then we'll at least have to find the rest of my friends. I look at Kudzu. Well, I do. I don't know what you're going to be. Kudzu gives me a wry smile. Well, I don't have anywhere else to go aside from out of here. Besides, I owe it to Leo to get him out. I feel a warm rush of relief flow over me, knowing Kudzu will be with me. I don't think I'd be able to do any of this alone. So we're going to get Leo? Kudzu nods. Well, I am at least. You should really stay here, get some more rest after what you went through. Of course, I'd rather stay here and hide until Kudzu comes back, but Leo tried to save me back at the diner, risked his life to do it. After everything Leo had done for me, I owe him too. No, I'm going to go with you. Kudzu shakes his head. I don't think so. It'll make things easier if it's just me. Kudzu shifts, looking toward the kitchen. Besides, I'll have Leo's gun with me, in case something goes wrong. He was my boyfriend. I can't just sit here while you save him. Kudzu pauses. Listen, I know Leo, and I know he'd never want me to bring you into something like this. Yeah, well, Leo not wanting me to do something never stopped me before. Getting defiant like this is making me feel better. It gives me purpose again. Kudzu looks like he's about to shake his head again, but I continue. Besides, it might help things. One of us could go in while the other distracts Duke. Or something. Kudzu looks unsure, so I press my advantage. And if something goes wrong, one of us would be there to help the other. Kudzu pulls at one of his whiskers. Maybe, if it's just Duke there. He might not even be there. He might be at Brian's trailer or somewhere else around town. Kudzu sighs and looks me right in the eyes. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm not. I nod anyway. We try to keep off the road in the brush on our way to Duke's house. Despite our situation, the biggest thing on my mind now is ticks. Funny how the mind works. The faint shouts and yells coming from the town are more frequent now. Another pop comes from that direction. It reminds me of the gun Kudzu has tucked into his waistband. He's never used one before, and it took us a solid couple of minutes to decide if he should even stick it there. Another pop. I can't help but think that's where the motel is, where Jenna might be. Here, though, not much is out of place aside from the smell of smoke on the breeze. That is until we come across a body hanging from a tree about 100 yards from Duke's house. I'm the first to notice it, and when I do, I gasp and instinctively reach for Kudzu. He catches my hand and looks up as he holds on to me. It's high up, maybe 50 feet, but from the markings on the fur, I think it's a fox. Oh, Jesus. Kudzu whispers next to me as I look away, feeling my stomach turn again. What the hell? How did he get up there? I look back and see that he's hanging by his wrist. I don't think he could have done that himself. Yeah. We both stare up at him for a little while longer, long enough to notice the long vertical slashes down his back. Those are the same cuts I saw on the other guy. Kudzu whispers distractedly. But who put him up there? Kudzu's silent and I keep staring up at the guy, the first dead guy that I've ever seen. Suddenly all of my motivation to get Leo starts to evaporate. Kudzu rests a hand on my shoulder and I jump. Sorry. Kudzu pats me. You alright? I'll take you back, okay? That sounded like the best idea in the world right now. I hesitate. When I think of Leo, I imagine him in the same situation as I was with Brian. Duke didn't seem as fucked up, but I have no idea what he's capable of. That thought makes it feel as if my heart is dropping through the ground, so I grit my teeth and shake my head. No, I'm okay. Kudzu looks at me closely, then nods. Okay, let's move back towards the road though. Don't think anyone is around right now anyway. I want to move towards the road too, meaning because I'm actually starting to worry that moving further away from the town really is dangerous. Duke's house is dark as we approach it. As we get closer though, I see flashes of light from a window well. We both crouch next to the house behind a small cluster of sagebrush. Alright, so all I can really think to do is knock on the door, see if he's there. I swallow. You'd stay hiding, of course. If he does come out, I don't know, I may try to put him down right there. Then I come out and help. Kudzu lets out a low chuckle. Yeah, but again, I'm not sure if that's what I'll do. We might be able to talk him out of this. Yeah. I don't have much faith in that plan. But if he isn't there, well, we'll probably go in and find Leo, alright? Okay. My heart rate picks up as I realise how close we are to making this happen. I start to have second thoughts. Maybe we should have at least looked for the sheriff? Maybe we should have gone straight to the motel? Alright. I can tell Kudzu is nervous too as he wipes his hands on his tank top before standing up slowly. Just watch from here. If he comes out with his gun though, I'm not going to try anything. He hesitates. And if I get shot or something, don't help. Just run back to my house and start looking for your other friends, I guess. I'm really starting to feel unprepared for all of this. Everything is moving way too fast. There isn't really any time though. We have to save Leo as soon as possible. There's no telling what Duke might be doing with him. As Kudzu starts to move away, I get the urge to hug him. He's done so much for me already, saving me and now trying to save Leo. But by now he's already halfway across the yard to the house. I hold my breath and watch as Kudzu's dark form melds in with the blackness of the house. It's like he's been swallowed up by it in a way. After a few moments I hear him knock on the door. I listen, trying to breathe through my mouth instead of my whistling nose so I can better hear what's going on. Kudzu knocks again much more loudly. Hey, it's Kud. I need some help. I look up and down the road, worried someone's going to hear us shouting. There's a slight rustling behind me and I look back, eyes wide. I don't see anything at first, but then I feel like there's a shape behind another grove of sagebrush, about 20 feet back. Something crouched, the moonlight defining its shape through the brush. I squint, completely stopping my breathing. It looks like it has a tail, a really thick one, like an otter. Was it Dale? I can't even tell if it really is a person, though. Jace! Kudzu whisper shouts and I jump before stumbling to my feet. The shape behind me doesn't move at all. I try to reassure myself that it's probably a rock. I jog over to Kudzu as he tries the door, trying not to think too much about what I just saw. Locked. He looks around for a while, then starts moving down the side of the house. Look for a window. Are we going to break one? Maybe. It only takes a few minutes to sweep the house, then we get the hell out. We quickly spot a window on the back of the house. Kudzu looks in and bites his lip. I'm just worried the Duke might still be in there with a gun or something. He bends over, picking up a sizable rock. Well, not much choice. If I say run, run. Got it? I nod and Kudzu lifts the rock above his head before smashing it through the window. The sound is probably the loudest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. I cover my own ears like that's going to lessen the sound. Kudzu jumps to the side away from the window, reaching back to hold on to me. The fur on Kudzu's body frizzes up, and I can see his ears perked up as far as they can go. Once the final tinkling of the glass subsides, we both listen. My ears are ringing, but the only other sound I can hear the chirping of the crickets. Finally, Kudzu lets out a soft breath. All right, let's go. I help him push out a few more shards of glass. Once that's done, the raccoon hoists himself inside, very carefully manoeuvring around the sharp, broken edges. He turns and reaches out to me, helping me through in the same fashion. Even though I'm trying to be careful, when I bring my arm in, it drags along a jagged edge of glass sticking out from the side. I grimace, the fiery pain taking a moment to really set in. Shit, you okay? He grabs my wrist so he can pull my arm up to examine it by moonlight and sucks in a breath. Oh fuck, he might need stitches for that. That's when I see the blood starting to ooze up from the fur. It's only about an inch long, but the amount of blood coming out is surprising. Damn it, I'll take care of it after we find Leo. I pull my arm away, despite Kudzu still trying to take a look at it. Alright, I'll see if we can't find something to wrap it up in. Kudzu starts fumbling along the wall and finds a light switch. I'm surprised to see a fairly quaint and tidy home. Unlike Kudzu's trailer though, there's barely anything in it. There's a single sofa and a very old-fashioned TV in what I presume was the living room. There's a fireplace and a few dirty-looking chairs on the other end of the room. In front of us is a long hallway with a few doors on both sides. Alright, check every room and door. It's not a very big house. Kudzu sets off down the hall. Look for stairs. I feel like he'd be in the basement. As Kudzu goes into a room to the left, I peer into one on the right. It looks like a bedroom with a single twin in the middle of the room. I take a few steps in, looking around and not seeing anything else. When I turn back around, I do see some picture frames hung up on the wall. Seems kind of odd for someone like Duke to have those up. In the pictures I see a much, much younger Duke, or at least a pre-meth Duke. Next to him is a female weasel, who smiles small compared to Duke's tooth-bearing grin. She's in the 3 other pictures next to that one too. Weird. I wouldn't have thought that anyone would want to be with Duke, especially someone as pretty as that weasel. I move on to the next room. This one is completely empty, painted white. The next door down is the last one on the right side of the hall. This is the only door that's closed, and like the last room's walls, it's painted white. It's taller and seems to be a bit thicker than the other doors. When I try the knob, it's locked. Kudzu? I whisper, and Kudzu pokes his head out from the door just behind me. What's up? I point at the door in front of me. This one's locked. Kudzu stands in front of the door and presses his ear to it. I see his hand hover in front of the crack between the door and its frame. Then he reaches out to my hand and pulls it up to the same spot. He looks at me. You feel that? I'm about to say no. That's when there's a noticeably cooler draft coming from within. It's kind of cold. The basement. I bet my ass that Leo's down there. I swallow. Should we try to break down the door or something? I don't. Kudzu's ears suddenly perk up straight and his eyes widen. My fur bristles out. What? That's when I hear it. The crunching of gravel. Kudzu grabs my arm and starts pushing me back down the hall towards the back room with a broken window. At that moment I hear the knob turn, and suddenly my path changes direction as Kudzu steers me into a room on our left. It's one of the rooms I hadn't looked into myself, and I see that it's a storage room. Boxes are everywhere, and so is a bunch of junk. Guess that explains why all the other rooms are so spotless, that he's not using his basement for storage. Kudzu looks around desperately for a moment, then pulls me behind a mound of boxes, just as I hear the door swinging open. The problem ain't that he got away! Duke is practically screeching when he comes inside, as if he's been waiting to be indoors before he yelled. Underneath Duke's pattering feet on the wooden floor, I hear 2 loud thumps, and I know immediately who was with him. My blood runs cold, my breathing seems to stop, worried that I'll be able to hear even that. If he's behind all this, he's going to make things so much worse! Huh. I hear a non-committal grunt from the bear, and I shudder at the sound of his voice again. I feel a light touch on my back as Kudzu rests his hand there, trying to comfort me. What do you mean, huh? You like the dreams you're having now? 'Cause trust me, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse. I hear a smacking sound, which I imagine is Duke's tiny hand trying to slap Brian in the face. What the fuck are you staring at? Duke's grating, nasally voice echoes around the carpetless house. Your window. There's a moment of silence. I hear someone shifting around. Then I hear Duke's footsteps bustle down the hall. I duck more deeply behind the boxes as he passes the doorway to our room. Fuck! Is someone fucking in here? Brian's lumbered down the hall, basically standing right in front of our room. I hear 2 more thumps and a bunch of rustling as Duke ineffectively beats at the bear's bulk. Fucking idiot! They broke in! I hear a jingling of keys as Duke continues to shout. Check every fucking room! I'll bet they broke through the basement window too! Fuck! Now that he says it, breaking through the basement window might have been a better idea. Looking between a crack in the boxes, I get a flash of the weasel walking past the door again. He's holding something long and shiny. I shrink back against the boxes, wondering how in the world I got here. As I stare at the ground, I also wonder if I'm about to have a heart attack. I focus on watching the blood seep from my arm, pooling on the wooden floor next to me. I hear a key go into a lock and a doorknob turn. I swear to God, if that wolf ain't down there, I'll blow your goddamn face off. Duke's voice fades away, accompanied by receding footsteps down the stairs. The heavy footfalls of Brian start to move around slowly toward the other end of the hall. Kudzu moves his hand up to my shoulder. I look at him and he holds a finger up to his lips, then points in the direction of the broken window. I don't want to move at all. In fact, I'd rather sit here and just disappear into the floor. Somehow, though, I'm able to force myself up to my feet as Kudzu tugs me up. We move very slowly to the doorway, and there Kudzu holds up a hand, making me pause. I watch his ears perk, flicking in the direction of Brian. My hearing probably isn't nearly as good as his, but I'm still able to pick up the bear's heavy, laboured breathing. I hear some shuffling, then more heavy footsteps. Kudzu freezes as we both listen to the bear move back into the hallway, then his footsteps fade away. I imagine he's moved into another room, and that's when Kudzu finally peers around the corner. I hold my breath, but Kudzu reaches back and grabs my wrist, pulling me out into the hallway. It's empty, and as quietly as quickly as we can, we move to the end of the hall to stand next to the broken window. Kudzu sticks one leg out the window before balancing his entire weight on both his hands that are resting on the bottom ledge. Like a gymnast, he moves the other leg out and quietly drops to the ground outside, his head narrowly missing the top ledge. I don't know if it's because he's a raccoon or an actual gymnast. There's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to do that. Kudzu's already reaching for me, though, his eyes wide with frantic worry. I can hear shuffling sounds behind me again, coming from one of the rooms. Kudzu reaches out towards me, then suddenly waves his hand wildly in the direction of the room right next to me. Heart pounding, I almost stumble through the doorway into the room. This one has a few chairs stacked up against the side of the wall, and what looks like a closet door. Brian's footsteps thump down the hall again, and I almost gasp as I get a glimpse of his massive shadow through the doorway. But then it disappears as I hear his footsteps move into the room right next to me. From just inside the room, I see Kudzu slowly pop back up in front of the window, then motion frantically towards himself. My legs are like jelly, though, and I hesitate. Then there's the raspy, dragging sound in the room next to me that almost makes me jump. It's the sound of a cardboard box being slid across the floor. I hear Brian mumbling, "Definitely not paint." I force my numb feet to stumble out into the hallway toward the window. Kudzu reaches for me, his eyes desperate, but then I hear the shuffling behind me again. Why is he moving so fast now? Automatically, I step back into the room while Kudzu continues to beckon to himself. Ryan's lumbering footsteps move down the hallway, slowly in my direction. Kudzu has ducked back down, out of sight. I'm alone and trapped. I remember the closet at the last minute and lunge towards it, not having enough time to worry about the sound I make. Somehow the closet door glides open with hardly a sound, as if the hinge had just recently been greased. I step inside, then swing the door shut, trying not to let it snap closed. and at that exact moment, Brian's lumbering gait enters the room. I shrink back against the wall, holding my hands to my mouth, trying not to breathe. My heartbeat is so loud it's the only thing I can hear as it pounds my ears. I hear coughing and grunting coming from behind the door. Then it goes quiet. I wait, unsure whether the bear has left or not. Slowly, I walk up to the door, pressing the side of my head gently against it. I listen, trying to see if I can hear anything. I swallow, then reach up to rest my hand on the doorknob. I think about making a run for it, maybe trying to dive through the window. I might get hurt, but if I'm able to get away... I wait for what feels like 2 or maybe 3 minutes. It's complete silence on the other side. I wait even longer, the point where I'm sure there's no way someone like Brian could keep that quiet that long. So slowly, as slowly as I can, I push the door open. And it immediately comes into contact with something on the other side before it's even a foot open. It's soft, whatever it is, and the door almost bounces back from it. I wait for a moment, then, as I'm starting to realise what just happened, a massive bear paw reaches around the edge of the door. In the next half second, the door is ripped open and I find myself facing Brian. A weird, numbing feeling spreads down from my crotch and into my legs, and I sag in front of the bear. My mind refuses to think, to even process what my eyes are seeing. What it does process is pure terror. Brian seems to have trouble understanding what he's seeing as well. He stares at me for a few seconds, his eyes practically crossing as he focuses on me. Then he grins. "Hey, you!" I can't respond. Instead, I press back into the closet, flattening myself against the wall as he reaches out to me. Still, there isn't much I can do as he grabs the front of my shirt and yanks me out of the closet. He starts to pull me towards the doorway, and I stumble into the hall and finally able to start trying to move again. Seeing the window, I lunge toward it, but Brian's grip is too strong. I hear a few popping sounds as some threads in my shirt give out, and Brian yanks me back violently. Everything goes black as something massive knocks up against the side of my face, and the next thing I know, I'm thrown down the hall flat on my back. I'm staring up at the ceiling, watching it slide sideways above me, like it's painted onto a treadmill. My right foot is hiked into the air, and I realise that Brian's dragging me along the floor now, back toward the end of the hall. The fur on my back glides easily along the hardwood, my shirt scrunching up to my chest. Brian stops as he reaches the white door, pushing it open. Dizzily, I look up at the window, wondering if Kudzu is there and if he can see me. I reach towards it, but that's when I'm being dragged again, and I land painfully on the first step. I gasp and turn sideways so that as Brian drags me clumsily down the rest of the steps, my spine isn't taking the rest of the corners. It's dark, and the air turns cool and musty. We finally reach the bottom of the steps, pain pulsing at various points of my body from the rough handling. Brian starts dragging me again, and I finally realise he's going to have me trapped again. He'll do whatever his sick mind thinks up, and there won't be anyone there to stop him. No. I moan and try to grab something, anything, to stop me from being pulled deeper into this basement. My hand manages to latch onto a wooden beam next to the stairs. Brian grunts as my body is snapped into full extension and we're brought to a halt. "Come on, let go!" I keep clinging to the beam, imagining that at any moment Kudzu is going to come running down the stairs, gun in hand. That comes to an end as Brian kicks me in the chest and I let go with a wheeze. "You know, you're the one making this hard on yourself." He starts dragging me again as I curl up and cradle my chest, vaguely hoping he'd given me a heart attack and I'd be free from all this. "I swear to God, if you're lying to me, Leo, I'm going to paint the ceiling with your fucking brains." "Why am I still here if someone came in to save me then?" The sound of Leo's voice has me snapping my eyes open again. While it isn't quite as heartening as Kudzu barging in the weapon, it's definitely relieving to hear his voice again. I'm dragged through another doorway into a brightly lit room, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. As I come to a stop on the cement floor, the room goes quiet and I squint against the sudden light. The walls on all sides are covered in shelves that are filled with silver tins and soup cans. A storage room of some kind. Duke is standing in the middle of the room next to a metal chair, staring at me. In that chair is Leo. His arms are down at his sides and I can see that they're both handcuffed to the sides of the chair. His feet are similarly strapped to the chair's legs. His face is one of shock as he also stares at me open-mouthed. I stare back, even feeling weirdly self-conscious as everyone watches me. Duke breaks the silence. "I knew it!" Duke is snarling, but it's not at me. Instead, he's looking at Brian, his lips drawn back as he growls. "This is what the fuck happens!" Brian scratches his head. What happens?" Duke kicks at the air with a foot before stamping down the hard cement that makes up the floor of the room. "This! Leo wasn't supposed to know he'd gone away!" "Well, I caught him, so what's the difference?" Duke lunges at Brian, swinging his arms a few times to beat his fist uselessly against the bear's bulk. Brian flinches back anyway, letting go of my foot. Leo's still staring down at me, mouth slightly less open. I have no idea what's going on in his mind right now. I suddenly realised how stupid I was to come here with Kudzu. Sure, saving Leo as soon as possible was important, but why did I thought we could have done it alone? I should be in my car right now, halfway to Peyton, 20 minutes away from the cops. Instead, I'm in Duke's basement, about to be murdered. I slowly sit up just as Duke seems to finish his beating of Brian. Gasping, he turns to me. "Fuck, well, if you're here, I just have to make use of you." He waves his hand loosely between me and Brian. "Pick him up." "Wait a second, just..." "Shut up!" Brian picks me up roughly, almost encircling my chest with his hands alone as he pins my arms to my sides. He holds me in front of Leo and Duke stands to the side between us. It's only now that I notice the puffiness in Leo's left eye, some crusted blood near his brow with some more coming from his lower lip. It's not terrible, but it's clear he's been hit a few times. As I watch him, I can see the fear in his eyes reflected back at me. That alone almost scares me more than the situation we're in. Not smirking anymore, are you?" Duke bares his teeth in Leo's direction. "Been trying to wipe off your face this whole time. It turns out this was all I needed to do it." Duke gestures at me. "You little fuck otter, huh?" Leo closes his eyes and shakes his head. "Why are you here?" He mumbles it, almost to himself. Duke leans closer to the wolf. "Why didn't you run if you got away?" Leo opens his eyes and he's looking straight at me. I don't know if he expects me to answer. The look of defeat on his face makes me feel like I have to. We wanted to save you. We didn't know where you were or what was happening." Duke suddenly leans away from Leo towards me, his eyes narrowed. "We? Who's we?" I feel my stomach drop as I realise what I've just done. I mean all of us. I saw some of my friends out there before I came here. I'm alone." Duke studies me closely. "Was there anyone else up there, Brian?" Brian is sulking behind me, letting go of my shoulder occasionally to rub at his chin. "Didn't see nobody there except this otter." Duke looks up at the ceiling like he's listening for footsteps or something. Duke snaps his attention back to Leo and notices his face is practically dancing with twitches and tics. "This is crazy." Leo enunciates each word through gritted teeth, his muzzle lowered as he's looking up at Duke eye to eye. "Look at this. Look at everything you've done. It makes no sense." Duke lets out a high-pitched laugh. "Crazy? You know what's crazy?" Duke gestures at me again. "Ask him what he saw out there." Duke turns to face me, swinging his hand from me to Leo. "Go on, tell him. He doesn't believe me." The corner of Duke's eye seems to have a mind of its own, like there's some kind of living creature under the surface writhing around. "Was it a little crazy?" I stare at Duke in trance until Brian gives me a quick jerk. I saw a body. There were gunshots." Duke giggles. "And that ain't the half of it. Houses afire, people eating each other. You think I'm crazy for shooting Janice? But if you knew..." "But how the hell are we supposed to know why that is?" Leo leans forward as far as his bonds let him, eyes wide, almost pleading with Duke. "This started when you got here." Duke lowers his voice dangerously, leaning back towards Leo, their noses almost touching. "That doesn't mean shit." Leo speaks haltingly back at the weasel. "Does this?" Duke suddenly pulls the gun from his waistband of his pants and points it straight at my face. I'm barely able to comprehend it before Brian jumps to the side with me out of the way of the gun.
Fucking Christ, Duke, don't point it at me!
Leo almost stands up on his toes with the chair still attached to his body, fur bristled out all over his body. Duke's lowered the gun though, still watching Leo. Leo slumps back in the chair, trembling.
Just stop, Duke. I don't know anything.
Duke stares for a moment at the wolf, frowning. Then looks down at his gun as if contemplating something. Slowly he looks at me, then points the gun at Leo's head. My heart jumps into my throat and Brian has to hold on to me as I try to hold out my hands.
Wait, what are you doing? Maybe it is just you, Otter.
What?
It's you I was seeing before you got here, and it's you I saw sneaking around at night.
What the hell are you talking about? I feel myself start to panic. I see Duke's finger tighten up around the trigger. I don't know what's happening. Leo's doing his best to keep his head out of the line of fire, leaning his head as far to the side as he can. Duke doesn't seem to be paying attention to him, though, instead keeping his eyes on me. Just explain to me why you think it's me. Maybe I can help. That seems to get some sort of reaction out of Duke as he lowers the gun just a bit. The problem now, though, is it's pointed at Leo's chest. There's no way he can dodge that. Duke is studying me closely, as if trying to figure out what to say.
You know this has happened before.
My mind races. The mass hysteria thing, like 100 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. See, how do you know that?
He looks closely at me, but I'm relieved as he finally takes the gun away from Leo to be pointed at the ground. I did some research before coming here. I'm doing a news story on Echo for school. Duke is still eyeing me suspiciously.
So you know about the murder?
I tried to think back to my research about what exactly happened. It was a while ago now, and I'd planned to fill in the gaps when I got back to Pueblo. Kind of. It happened in the mine.
Yeah, it did. And then people went nuts.
I wait, but Duke doesn't go on, filling the air with awkward silence. I can see Leo's head looking back and forth, probably trying to come up with a way to get out of this. I hope he's figuring something out, because I have no idea how we're going to do that. But do you know why? I'm trying to sift through Duke's psyche to figure out why he thinks this might be related to Leo and I. Duke's breathing has levelled off, and with his calmness is the feeling that we've managed to ride out the storm.
My grandpappy lived through it all and stayed in the town after.
Oh? I notice Leo's not looking around anymore. Instead, his eyes are trained on the door behind me and slightly to my right. I want to look back, but Duke seems distracted right now, so I try to keep him engaged.
Yeah, happened weeks after the body was found, sort of built up till all hell broke loose.
Leo nods his head slightly, eyes still on the door, and my heart leaps in my chest as I realise what might be happening. Do you know why that was? Duke shakes his head.
There's something bad in this town. The earth's bad, the air's bad, everything's tainted.
So you think something's in the air, or water, or something? I lean a bit to the left to try to keep Duke's eyes on me, away from Leo or the door.
I don't know about that. My grandpappy thought that because they didn't catch the murderer, it planted some seeds in the bad dirt.
Duke looks at the ceiling.
And grew something terrible. Wasn't until they killed the guy that did it that it stopped.
That's news to me. I didn't read anywhere that the murderer had been caught. Duke looks back down at me.
So I don't know what it is. If it's murder or guilt or not catching someone that did wrong.
I hear the softest sound of a footpad against the floor behind me. I'm afraid that none of the others did.
But it started when you got here, so you got to forgive me for wondering if one of you did something bad.
Duke starts to raise the gun again.
And brought that guilt back to this poisoned land to grow the seeds again.
Duke doesn't sound like himself at all, not even his recently crazed self. Still, though I don't want to admit it, I start to have an idea of what Duke might be getting at. How this all fits into our history.
What was that kid's name a while back that died in the lake?
He wasn't murdered.
You sure about that?
Yes. But I'm not, am I? I swallow hard, aware that some of the pieces don't fit, despite how disturbing the implications are. But that was years ago. Why didn't it start then? Why now? Duke shrugs.
Maybe he wasn't guilty till now. Maybe kids don't understand what they've done. Maybe it's because you left and it made it angry.
But he wasn't murdered.
You see it happen?
No, but the person that did will never do that.
So am I talking to the wrong guy right now? Who was it?
I look over at Leo again, swallowing hard.
Who was it?
Duke starts to raise the gun again. What happens over the course of the next minute is too fast for me to comprehend until it's over. Leo explodes out from his sitting position, face twisted with rage. He bares his teeth in a full-on wolf snarl. Though his feet are handcuffed to the legs of the chair, he's still able to lunge off the ground with his feet. He launches himself at Duke, slamming into the weasel with a painful crunch of flesh on flesh and metal on concrete. I gasp and watch as Leo starts ripping into Duke with his teeth. Duke screams and flails his arms around, apparently forgetting his weapon as it flies from his fingers. The gun slides across the ground to tap gently against the wall, just 5 feet from me. Brian keeps a tight grip on me though, but that's when I hear a clicking sound behind me. Brian does too, and he turns sideways, allowing me to see the source as well. And there stands Kudzu, both hands on Leo's handguns. He pointed up at Brian's head. It clicks uselessly though, and Kudzu's face is a mixed mask of terror, desperation and confusion.
The safety!
Leo is still struggling on the ground with a screaming Duke, lifting his mouth in the weasel's arm to shout at Kudzu. Kudzu's eyes snap the gun in his hand, but Brian's already moving. He kicks at Kudzu's hands and it connects violently, sending the gun flying into the air to clap against the ceiling. Brian lets go of me at that point, reaching out to catch the gun. Because no one's fighting over Duke's gun, I realise that might be my best chance. I lunge in the opposite direction. Clumsily, I scoop up the weasel's gun, turn it over in my hands until I'm holding it the right way.
Brian, my gun!
Leo is still tearing away the weasel's arms as Duke holds them up in defence. I turn around, crouched back against the walls. I see Brian standing over a downed Kudzu. I can only pray that he hasn't killed him. I point the gun at Brian just as he turns around to face me. Seeing as he's about to get shot, the bear lunges at me, his massive paws up, stretching out towards me. Luckily for me, Duke never had the safety on and the gun is loaded. I shoot him right in the face. The sound is so loud in the tiny room that my hearing goes out for a moment. Brian crumples the floor and the room goes quiet. But only for a moment. An unearthly howling sound comes from the bear as he slowly props himself up on his hands, looking back up at me. For a moment I wonder if the evil powers of Echo brought him back to life somehow. But no, there's a bloody hole just above his blunt nose, and I can see the white of bone peeking through the red. Somehow the bullet hadn't even pierced his skull. Shakily I raise the gun again, but Brian rolls away to the door, and with speed that shouldn't be possible for a bear his size, he's gone. I stare for a moment, wondering if I should run after him, but a snarl next to me has me pointing the gun at Duke instead. Leo's still tearing into his arms as Duke hollers at the top of his lungs, trying to cover his face. "Leo, stop! I've got the gun on him!" Leo looks up at me with his wild eyes, pausing for a moment before slowly letting go of the mustelid's arms, bloody drool hanging from his chin. I try to ignore that and keep the gun trained on Duke's head as Leo flops to the side in his chair. After seeing how little the bullet had affected Brian, I'm not so confident he'll do much damage to Duke. Maybe bears just have thicker skulls, but I'm more worried that the gun is just shit. Duke doesn't move though as he lays back against the concrete, eyes closed, gasping for breath. His arms are at his sides, both of them leaking blood onto the ground. Leo really did a number on them. He definitely needs to go to the hospital. A hand touches my shoulder and I jump. I look back and see that it's Kudzu. "Sorry, you okay?" Leo's gun hangs loosely from one of his hands. "Kudzu, you fucking saved our lives." I grin at him as I almost sob with relief. I want to hug him, but I have to keep the gun on Duke. "Of course, I'm sorry I didn't stop him when he took you. I wasn't sure what to do." He touches my shoulder again. I can feel him trembling. "Don't worry about it. We're okay now." Can someone get me out of these handcuffs, please? My arms are fucking killing me."
"Killing you? You ripped mine apart."
Duke is practically sobbing now, curling up on his side to hold his arms up to his chest.
"Fuck you, asshole."
Leo spits at him as he tries to adjust his position on the floor. "Where are the keys, Duke?" Duke takes in a shuddering breath and holds it for a few seconds before answering.
"Right pocket."
Kudzu walks over and kneels next to the weasel, sifting through his pocket. Keep an eye on the door, Chase, in case Blubbergut comes back. I try to angle myself and keep an eye on both the door and Duke. I'm pretty sure the latter is through at this point. Kudzu pulls a small metal key out before moving over to Leo, fumbling around for a good while before the handcuffs finally drop to the ground. Leo kneels there for a moment, wringing out his wrists. You okay? He smiles at me. I'm a little sore, but I think I'll be alright. He gets unsteadily to his feet, taking a pair of handcuffs up with him before bending quickly to give me a kiss on the head. I'm so happy you're okay, Chase, and thank you, Kudzu. He slaps the raccoon on the back before turning his attention to the weasel. Duke notices and quickly curls up tighter.
I was just trying to help everyone. Ah!
Leo grabs him by his bloodied arms before yanking him violently to his feet. The weasel screams double as the wolf twists those arms behind his back, handcuffing them.
Why the hell do you have so many handcuffs anyway?
Duke starts sobbing again until Leo whips him around and slaps him across the face. Duke sways, stunned by the power of the blow, before Leo brings the hand back and hits him on the other cheek.
Shut the fuck up!
Leo ignores Kudzu as he pulls the chair back up and throws Duke into it so violently it almost tips over.
Please, I'm sorry, I just want to help.
Duke cowers as Leo raises his hand again. I realise how tightly I'm holding onto the gun, and I'm pointing at the ground now. I'm sure to take my finger off the trigger. While Leo's violence is a little disturbing, it's almost comforting to have him throw his weight around after how the weasel had threatened us. Kudzu, on the other hand, does not comforted at all. He's still trembling from the earlier fight, and he's pulling at the fur on his chin as he watches Leo. Careful, Leo. Let's just take him into the cops or something. Kudzu looks over his shoulder at the door. Going to Peyton was probably a better idea now that I realise how messed up everyone is. Yeah. I mean, if that monster they're all talking about isn't real, it'd been better to risk that than get involved with these idiots. I hadn't even thought about the supposed thing keeping everyone from leaving the town. Seems silly now that we'd let a stupid story like that keep us here. Leo doesn't seem to be listening. You're a fucking lunatic, Duke. Why shouldn't I just kill you right now? Leo looks over his shoulder at us, finally, shaking his head at Kudzu conspiratorially. Kudzu goes silent as Leo goes back to staring down at the weasel. Now explain to us what the hell is going on. Leo leans in closer with his bloody muzzle and Duke cringes back. Tell the truth and maybe I'll let you go. Leo glances at me. I won't kill you, at least. He's trying to make it clear to me that he's just trying to scare Duke. At least that's what I hope he's doing.
I already explained.
Duke's eyes dart back and forth between us. The way he's kicking his feet around with a high-pitched, whiny voice makes me think of a child. A really ugly, malnourished child. I still feel a little bad for him, though. Remind me, because I was a little fucking distracted. Kudzu sidles up next to me and sets his hand on my shoulder. Do you want to watch the door? I touch his hand in acknowledgement and turn around to face the door. I don't really think Brian's going to be coming back, though.
I told yous, something's bad happening. We need to figure out what.
Yeah. But how did kidnapping us help anything? Duke sighs deeply, and I glance over my shoulder to see him slumping in defeat.
Last time this happened, it might have been caused by a murder. Not the murder, but the guy got away with murder.
There's a moment of silence. Okay. Leo's tone demands that Duke go on.
So the guilt from the guy, or the worry in the town, or just spirits. Heck, I don't know. Maybe all of that, but it came together to make everything go crazy.
Okay, sure. But how does this have anything to do with us?
I saw the otters sneaking round town before you says they got here.
I look back again and see Duke looking at me. So is Leo.
Seemed kind of fishy to me, so I thought he might have something to do with it all. Was my only lead.
Leo doesn't respond this time. I look back again and see that he's still looking at me. What is it?
You told me yourself, Leo. You saw him sneaking round too.
It was someone else.
How the hell do you know that?
What are you guys talking about? Kudzu, can you watch the door? I finally turn around. Leo leans one hand on the back of Duke's chair as he sighs. If you remember, Chase, I told you about how I thought I saw someone out my window that looked like you. Leo turned his glare back onto Duke. Got drunk with his asshole and accidentally told him about it too.
But we both saw it. Isn't that a little bit strange?
Some otter came by the town that looked like Chase. What the hell else was it? Leo glances back at me, and I feel like there's some doubt in his eyes. I mean, you weren't here, right? Of course I wasn't. I know, just making sure. Leo turns back to Duke. Why would that mean anything anyway? Duke looks around, visibly clenching his toes.
I've heard stuff about doubles, like doppelgangers or something.
Doppelgangers?
Sure, but people talked about that shit happening back then, seeing themselves and stuff.
Okay, so if we believe that shit, why would it mean he has anything to do with anything?
Well, my grandpappy said the guy that did it was in 2 or 3 places at once sometimes.
There's a moment of silence where we all absorb that bit of information. Sounds like a load of shit to me, Duke. Duke jumps up in his seat.
I'm just telling you what I know.
So what's your solution to all this then?
I don't know. It stopped when they got the guy.
Duke cowers in the chair, then glances at me. Leo follows his gaze and his eyes turn steely. Duke seems to notice Leo's sudden change in demeanour, before he can do anything and gets a massive slap from the wolf. Leo, stop it! Duke immediately starts sobbing again and curls in on himself. Me? This fucker wants to get at Chase! It did seem that way. Did Duke think the only way to stop all of the problems in this town was to kill me? Duke. Kudzu tries a different approach, his voice much gentler than Leo's. The problem with your theory is that Chase hasn't killed anyone, right, Chase? Of course not.
Of course not.
So maybe we need to rethink things a little, huh? Or maybe he can do that in a fucking jail cell. We're going back to get my van, then we're going to get the hell out of here. If we can. I'm still not sure about that thing the mayor was talking about. What thing? A monster or something? May told us it's killing people that are trying to leave. Leo stares. Has the town really gone that fucking insane? Kudzu shrugs. There were bodies. Jesus. Leo looks around. Well, it still sounds like bullshit, but if there is anything, we'll be fine if we leave in a car. The motel is closer, we can use my car instead. Sure. Duke is still staring at me with a hard look. I get the feeling that despite all the things we've just told him, he's not buying it. Leo hauls the weasel off the chair, gaining a little squeak of pain from Duke as he's forced to break eye contact with me. What about the others? We're going to try and find everyone we can before we leave. The priority is to get ourselves to a police station. Leo pulls me to stand in front of him before gesturing at Kudzu. Kud, take the gun. Safety's off now. Kudzu visibly frowns as I hand it to him. Yeah, sorry about that. I want Chase between us. I don't trust these fuckers not to try anything, especially if Brian comes back. So, with Kudzu leading the way, we make our way out of Brian's house. Brian? We're in Duke's house. Sorry, Howley, there's a typo. So with Kudzu leading the way, we make our way out of Duke's house and into the night. And as we leave them heading to the motel, we're going to leave this video. Thanks for listening. Nusta.